Okay, so hopefully there's more than one who has flown over the cuckoo's nest at this point. Get to spread your wings a little bit in some way in this strange time that we're in. Okay, as we do every week, I'm going to begin with a little bit of a recap for new students. And we should all be new students, even if we've been here all 6 weeks. So we began by learning about the biblical and agricultural roots of the Omer offering after the first day of Passover, as well as the practice of counting 49 days until Shavuot. We then learned how, following the destruction of the temple, the rabbis continued this mitzvah of counting and connected it with that original barley offering by referring to the practice as Sefirat HaOmer. We then learned how the Kabbalists overlaid the map of the Sefirot onto this period of 49 days, turning the purely chronological counting into a journey through the inner dimensions of creation and consciousness. We then began learning about each of the individual Sefirot week by week, beginning with Chesed, the love that loves to love. We then ventured forth into the multidimensional terrains of space, time, and soul, present in the poetics of the practice of counting the Omer, wherein we acknowledge the act of counting every single day as an expression of Gevura, necessary to navigate the wilderness and bring some Seder to the howling abyss of life and evolve one's ability to receive and respond to revelation, which we are moving towards in Shavuot. We then explored the balancing act of Tiferet through the lens of the Akedah, in which both Abraham and Yitzhak were shocked back into an awareness of the gift of life and brought back from the brink of overzealous spiritualization. We then explored the nuances of Netzach, along with the various paradigms and practices of mourning adhered to during the Omer period through the stories of the deaths of Rabbi Akiva's students. And we learned about the failure of winning in certain aspects of our lives. Then last week, we dove into the depths of Lag BaOmer and explored the redemption of Torah itself through the acknowledgement of the divine light of the other in the stories of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and Rebbe Meir. And now, my friends, here we are tonight, back in the middle pillar, the Sefira of Yesod. Just want to give a little parental advisory warning. This is going to be a strange class. So if you've been with me for the last 5 weeks and you go, what are you talking about, dude? Every week is a strange class. This one is strange, Sheba strange. So bear with me, humor me, don't judge me. Here we go. So in the same way that Tiferet balances Chesed and Gevura, as we explored a few weeks ago, Yesod balances Netzach and Hod. Netzach is projective. Hod is reflective. Netzach is propulsive. Hod is receptive. Netzach is penetrating. Hod is embracing. Netzach and Hod, in certain ways, if you were following the language that I was using, in certain ways are pretty genitaliated. As we mentioned briefly in our first class, the Sefirot map onto the human body. Keter is the crown above the head, the aura or that kind of light body. Chochmah is the right brain. Bina is the left brain. Chesed is the right arm. Gevura is the left arm. Tiferet is the torso or spine. Netzach is the right leg. Hod is the left leg. And Yesod is the genitals. Malchut is the feet as well as the mouth. Malchut is where you walk your talk or talk your walk. Yesod is thus most commonly understood as the seat of our sexuality and vital energy. Yeah, it's where the serpent is coiled. It is the second chakra for those who are familiar with that kind of language and symbolic system. And according to Kabbalah, as well as many, many other mystical systems from all over the world, the integrity of our sexual vital energy is the foundation of our whole bio-psycho-socio-spiritual system. And Yesod literally translates as foundation. Yesod can either be a throne upholding our highest ideals and potentials for connection, or it can be a toilet bowl and receptacle for our most depraved expressions of ego. If something is out of whack or balance on this level, it will throw all other dimensions of our being out of balance, whether in the higher registers above or in the realm of Malchut and manifestation below it. It is in this context that Torah's and the rabbis' seeming obsession with appropriate and inappropriate sexual relationships and expressions must be understood. For just as with the Sefirot, in which we can see that an imbalance in Yesod can affect the Sefirot above or Malchut below, the Torah's and rabbis' rules of engagement are understood to impact one's emotional, intellectual, and spiritual state, as well as the status of offspring that emerge from certain unions. You can sleep with this person, but not this person. You can sleep with this person at this time, but not at that time. Kabbalah, too, is even more obsessed with sex, especially the Zohar and certain sects of Hasidism, particularly Rabbi Nachman. For them, aside from all the particular relationships one was not to engage in, according to a literalist read or hyper-literalist read of the Torah, the act of masturbation specifically posed the greatest spiritual threat. The Zohar goes so far as to state that every sin can be rectified through tshuva except masturbation. This is curious considering the pure monotheistic view of creation, which is essentially monosexual, meaning if there is no partner in creation, then it is essentially a singular act. Either way, Rabbi Nachman developed the Tikkun Klali, the general rectification, a series of 10 psalms, one says, to purify their soul as a kind of spiritual panacea in general, but also specifically as a method to purify this particular act, i.e., he was responding to the Zohar by saying that there is no tshuva for this certain specific sexual act and actually offering a cure for this act which had previously been unavailable. In any case, as you may have noticed, I am not going to go into all the details of the specifics of the Torah's and the rabbis and Kabbalah's specific trips and teachings surrounding what they consider to be appropriate sexuality. Some of these teachings are still relevant today and accepted widely, incest and bestiality, for instance, and others are disastrously out of date or out of touch and are the source of intense pain and alienation for many people. Homosexuality, premarital sex, among many others. So my interest here is not to list off the specific injunctions of the tradition surrounding sexuality, but rather to point out that the Torah and Kabbalah are extremely sensitive to the role of sexuality and circulation of vital energy within the whole system of a human being, and that we would be well served to bring light to this often shadowy realm of our experience. This is my primary structural takeaway. We must work to bring consciousness, awareness, sensitivity, clarity to our practice and expressions of sexuality, whatever they may be. Otherwise, we endanger ourselves and others around us in deep and profound ways. For even in this post-everything world of moral relativity that we live in today, it is still imperative for each of us to articulate and actualize an ethics of physical relationships and connection. We can see the degree of the imbalances today in our society, for instance, in such things as the Me Too movement, as just, the most obvious and latest public commentary and response to the imbalances in this sphere that we experience as a society. This demonstrates a societal imbalance in the sphere of Yesod, and in many ways is indicative of the many imbalances in our society: possessiveness, entitlement, abusiveness, self-centeredness, loneliness, violence, repressiveness, maladaptive expressivity, the list goes on. In fact, Kabbalah sees this realm as so important to our spiritual state and development that it equates it with the character and archetype of the tzaddik, the righteous one, the illuminated one, the saint, as we will explore further. This is based on the pasuk, Tzaddik Yesod Olam. The tzaddik, the righteous one, is the foundation of the world. On one level, we can read this as saying that the tzaddik is the foundation that upholds the world. This is analogous to the midrash that presents God's discussion with the angels about whether to create humanity, with the angels arguing against us due to our sinful nature, and God arguing for us due to the fact that there would be some righteous people who would use their free will to do wonderful, loving things. It was for them that the world was created and the light of the first day was hidden away. Another way to read this statement is less grammatically and more diagrammatically, as our yesod is what stands in between us, the potential tzaddik, and the world. In other words, our yesod, our relationship and approach to sexuality and connection, our ability to bring about a virtuous unification in the material physical realm is the fundamental interface between us and the world outside of us. It exemplifies and reveals our true perspective and posture in relation to the world on all other levels. So the state of our energy on that fundamental level will determine the nature of our interaction with the world other than ourselves. In addition to this pasuk, which equates the spiritual status of the tzaddik with the concept of the yesod, is the fact that according to Kabbalah, the character associated with the Sefirat of Yesod is Joseph, the one referred to by tradition specifically as HaTzadik, Yosef HaTzadik. We have the three Avinus, the fathers, the patriarchs, Abraham, to follow the Sefirot as we've been going, Abraham, Chesed, Yitzhak, Gevurah, Yaakov, Tiferet. We have Rabbeinu, our teacher, Moshe, Netzach. We have HaKohen, Aaron HaKohen in Hod. We have David HaMelech, the king, in Malchut. And we have Yosef HaTzadik in Yesod. And according to most teachings, although it's obviously more complex than this, but what was it specifically that Yosef did to deserve this title of tzaddik? He resisted the advances of a beautiful, powerful, but inappropriate lover. He overcame his desire and temptation and did not enter into an illicit and dishonest affair. He did not sleep with his boss's wife in his boss's own home, despite her persistent advances. And according to many sources, and to human nature, this was not easy. Yosef himself was said to be exceedingly beautiful, so his challenge in this regard was great in that he received a lot of sexual energy and attention thrown his way. Simply put, dude was hot. One midrash even goes so far as to say that Yosef actually went to Potiphar's house that day while everyone was out, specifically to consummate the affair with the woman of the house. He was going to do it, and only decided to not do it at the very last moment. In fact, one midrash says that he was so overcome by desire, and this is weird. At one point, he ran outside and shoved his hands into the earth and ejaculated out of his 10 fingers. This is both a very deep metaphor for the 10 Sefirot and the spiritualization of matter, as well as a mytho-historical foreshadowing of the impregnation of the soil of Egypt with the seed of Israel, who would later come down during the famine and emerge with Joseph's bones during the Exodus. Another midrash states that he was going to do it and decided not to at the last moment because he saw an image of his father's face. And through that image of his righteous ancestor, he regained his conscience in the moment. There's another beautiful version of this teaching which states that it was not his father's face that he saw in that moment that made him change his mind. It was, in fact, the image of his own face as a father in the future. And he thought to himself, how will I ever be able to look my own child in the eye with integrity if I do such a thing? we see in that single teaching, in both versions, the way in which Yesod is connected to both that which comes before, the ancestors, and the Sefirot above it, and that which issues forth and comes from it, the offspring. At this point, I also want to explore a little bit about the energetic process as it is reflected in the Sefirot in connection with certain aspects of Joseph's story. Let's recall, as we said earlier, that the tree itself is a diagrammatic map of manifestation as it moves from the Ein Sof, the infinite no-thingness, into material finite form or somethingness. Keter is the super-rational spiritual realm. Chochma Bina Dat is the intellective cognitive sphere. Chesed Gevura Tiferet is the emotional realm. Netzach Hod Yesod is the behavioral realm. Malchut is the fruit of the action rooted in Keter and beyond. As you can see, the seed of intention moves down the tree into increasingly materialized form. So we move from the spirit to the mind, to the heart, to the body. Similarly, as we can see from the characterization of Yesod as the foundation of our consciousness, which rises up from it, as we move back up the tree, the fruit of our highest spiritual intentions is rooted in the depths of our physical bodies and the vital energy that we circulate therein. Da'at, Tiferet, and Yesod, the three middle pillars, in between Keter and Malchut, which are also the bookend middle pillars, are all fulfilling similar functions in each of these realms to balance and bring together the two sides of a single coin in each realm. Da'at unifies and brings together and fruits Chochma and Bina in the intellective sphere. Tiferet balances and brings together and fruits Chesed and Gevura in the emotional sphere. Yesod balances and brings together and expresses and brings to fruition Netzach and Hod in the behavioral sphere of action. Malchut then is the fruit of said action. Interestingly, Da'at also means, which is translated as knowledge, like the Eitz Hadat, the tree of knowledge from the garden that Adam and Chava ate from, also means intercourse in the Torah, to know somebody biblically. So Yesod is that same dynamic, which is both this kind of knowing as well as physical union and characterizing this form of knowing and consciousness as a union with that which is known. But in Da'at, we're moving from the intellective sphere, and the metaphor is the physical realm, whereas Yesod, we're planted firmly within the physical realm, and the kind of metaphoric iteration of it is a form of consciousness. From this perspective, we can read Joseph's story of being sold into slavery in Egypt as a Kabbalistic parable of spiritual energy entering into the material realm, and the challenges it must overcome in order to survive and even to thrive. As Joseph's son Ephraim suggests, Ephraim, he says when he names him, you hear the word fruit in it, pri, Ephraim. I was fruitful in a strange land. That's what the soul says within the body, if it's able to maintain itself and continue to express itself successfully. Remember, Mitzrayim translates as narrow or constricted place. From the perspective of the soul, the body or the material world is that place of constriction. It is a place of power and exchange and exploitation, where one's freedom can be bought and sold by those with resources. It is a place of temptation and corruption. It is a place of imprisonment, privilege, and starvation. It is a place of dreams that signal beyond its confines. It is a place of fortune and misfortune, of seeming randomness and providence, a place of confusion, a place of destruction and of potential liberation and redemption. The story of Joseph is thus the story of a human being entering fully into the world and emerging with their soul intact. And the key to Joseph's story of surviving the many ups and downs of his story is, according to Torah and Chazal, his ability to maintain his moral and energetic integrity in the sexual sphere of his experience. For sure, he had many gifts and showed numerous signs of promise and even privilege from a young age. But had he not maintained his integrity in the episode with Potiphar's wife, he would not have been able to achieve all that he did after his imprisonment. All of his innate talents and superpowers would not have amounted to anything in the face of this particular impropriety. It would have swallowed him and prevented him from rising out of the pit and rising above his normal capabilities to unlock his true potential, to illuminate the inner point of righteousness within him. For a fall on this level can topple an entire life, as we've seen numerous times, no matter how positive the rest of one's actions may have been or appeared to be. If unrectified, Yesod is literally the one bad apple that can spoil the bunch. And what happened after Joseph emerged from his imprisonment? Ironically, in a wonderful twist of rabbinic irony, he married Potiphar's daughter, had children, and was put in charge of the flow of Egypt's resources. Putting aside all of the crazy Jewish conspiratorial undertones present in this story, i.e., the Jew from a foreign land who comes and takes over the economic system of a given country, it is interesting to note the connection between the various systems of vital energy in bodies of varying scale. In some ways, food, money, and vital bioenergy are all synonymous within their respective systems. They each circulate vitality and pleasure throughout the body of the individual or within society. Control over one's sexuality is the ability to hold and release stores of vital energy in appropriate amounts at appropriate times to appropriate people. Therefore, Joseph's ability to regulate his own stores of vital energy, not wasting it all in a moment or withholding it to the point of starvation, made him the ideal person to regulate the flow of resources and vital energy within the bigger civilizational system of Egypt and the Near East during the years of famine. Joseph was thus a practitioner of both sexual and societal tantra. Joseph the Tzaddik, the sixth of the lower Sefirot, also rectifies the sixth day of creation. It was on the sixth day that humanity was both created and evicted from the garden for a misappropriation of da'at. Now remember, da'at is synonymous with coitus, and certainly there are many midrashim that equate the eating from the tree of knowledge with some sort of sexual act or misact. However, we also learn from the Arizal, Rabbi Isaac Luria, that had Adam and Chava waited until the seventh day, Shabbos, they could have eaten from that same tree and not experienced the same disastrous effects. So, by the tzaddik doing the work of rectifying the sixth sefira of Yesod, namely by a conscious and sensitive regulation of the expressions of those deep and primal urges, they elevate their sexuality to the realm of holiness, and thereby return to their full humanity in the garden of Malchut. Therefore, we must understand that the Torah does not say that sex is bad or evil. Rather, it is powerful. And depending on how we relate to it, to ourselves and to others, it has the potential to send us into gullus, exile, or open the gates back into the primordial garden of Geulah, redemption. The tzaddik is that righteous point within each of us that is capable of achieving balance, clarity, sensitivity, passion, and restraint in that most vital and precarious realm of our being, the place where Bria, creation, meets Oneg, pleasure, the foundation of our biopsychic system, where heaven meets earth, Yesod, the place where love is literally made, or where empires of ego are destroyed. So give me one moment while I pull up our trusty open Siddur project, our virtual Siddur that we have been using, where we will count this most holy of days of the Sefirat. Give me 1 second. I apologize. Here we are. Hi, Gewalt. In this time, oy vey, in this time of such separation, such physical separation, you know, you read all these emails, all these desperate marketing campaigns. We're still connected even in separation. Separation connects us. We're even stronger connected. No. No. We have the foundation of our connection literally kicked out from under us. Let's acknowledge that. Let's hold that. That's okay. That is okay. We're in a tough spot. But as many people have said, we are in a bit of a timeout, and we are able to reflect upon what we have done, what we have been doing, who we have been, how we have been being, who we have been with, why we have been with them. It is an opportune moment. Not that we're more connected by being separated. This sucks. Screw those emails. Sick of that shit. But it is an opportunity where we can reflect on the ways that we have previously been connecting, unifying, relating, coming together with others, intellectually in Chabad, emotionally in Chagat, and physically. Yesod, the foundation, the realm of the tzaddik, it brings us into embodiment. This is not just a head game. We have to think of the ways that we are, that we're interacting on that most basic physical level. In fact, it is literally, according to Kabbalah, the foundation and the kind of holographic fractal image of how we actually really are in relation to others on all of these other realms. It's the one realm you can't gloss over it. You can't hide. You can't hide it. It's revealed in the most basic material ways. And so this time of separation, God willing, can be a time that we can look deep within and identify the ways in which we have been in beautiful balance, the ways in which we have been out of balance, the ways that we have related to others in full holiness and acknowledgement of their beingness and sanctity as a unique and invaluable creation of God, and the ways in which we have related to others for our own benefit as means to an end, as challenges to be overcome, as games to be played, as using people as pawns in some other game. And God willing, We can use this time to reflect on that dimension of our existence and being and relationships, and come to some kind of clarification and animate and illuminate that inner point of tzedek within us, that is required for us to hold fast to our highest ideals and manifest our highest intention, no matter where we find ourselves, no matter what situation we find ourselves in, that we are able to hold on to that heavenly root, that spiritual root, that clarifies and illuminates the values that we most want to live by. And may we all value and see each other as those unique and invaluable creations of the Most High. We are each ends in ourselves. We are not means for each other to achieve some other end. And may we meet in that place of true connection and true union. As it says in Raza de Shabbat and Kigavna, after we have, I went on this whole weird masturbation thing with the mono-sexual creative act of God. But the Kabbalists take it to another place in Raza de Shabbat and Kigavna, these Zoharic passages that we read in between Kabbalat Shabbat and Ma'ariv on Friday night. And they have this beautiful kind of like erotica. It's totally Jewish tantric poetry, by the way. And the way they phrase it is very beautiful, and I think it sums up this kind of meeting of equals and infinite equals, where it says that there's Kudsha Brichu, the transcendent face of divinity above, and there's Ushechinte, and the Shekhinah, the immanent face of divinity below, that's immanent. And on Shabbos, they meet, oneness paralleling oneness. And when they meet, what does it make? A oneness. But it has this, it's like this total this total meeting, this total acknowledgement of the infinity of the other, and it's a oneness paralleling a oneness. It's not a oneness that just kind of like absorbs everything in this like monomaniacal, almost like egoic absorption of all. It's a oneness paralleling oneness. It's like, you are an infinite unity that contains the all, and somehow paradoxically in relationship you encounter another infinite unity that incorporates the all, and those infinities can meet and both create a higher order of oneness and maintain their uniqueness and beingness. So may we all achieve the level of relationship in which a oneness parallels and meets and unifies with a oneness. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al Sefirat HaOmer. Hayom 40 yom Shehem chamisha shavuot v'chamisha yamim la'omer. Hod shebeyesod. Acknowledge the foundation. Root yourself in it and rise from it. Peace.